Hello there. Welcome to the finals of the Low Inter Easter tournament. So we're going to start this off on the map, which is Krant, this terrible, terrible looking map, where you've had all your space stolen by the trees, and then the hills hit you as well. So starting here in the worst spawn, I would say, with all these hills, his base is basically a hole, as Kickstart would hate. We've got JoRt here in the yellow, and it's going to be a Wookiee mirror because the civs are all mirror random, and in the much easier to build on flatlands here, we've got Evil Weasel in the purple. And it's just, this map just, yeah, it's awful. It's the kind of thing that I've said to people that make maps and stuff, that if you're going to take away space from your players, like, you know, have a million trees, you probably shouldn't put like rocks and ponds in as well, and then you should probably tone down the elevation as well, because you can't like build command centers or anything on these hills. But this is unfortunately one of the base maps, so it's been a long time since anyone actually came up with that concept. Could probably use some sort of overhaul if it was at all possible. Looking at the map here, there isn't really much food. There just seems to be a few sort of nerfs. Have a look at the old nursery. Got about 6. Got 1 here. Probably gonna want to eat like a couple of these nerfs. They're gonna have them housed. They can maybe open mounties on the back of it, but to be honest with this map, I know in was it one of the Risk Yoda games there was like 2 paths, but ever since then, between now and the Raphael one, there's just been 1 path that can just be walled here very easily. That's probably like a 2 prefab wall or something. So very unlikely that there really will be early aggression. What we're more likely to see is the players just go up to tech level 3 and get like double air bases and play sort of the way that you would maybe play out a team game. It's like the pocket or something like that. Just double air base and then sort of booming and using the air to try and get yourself ahead. And they are both a civ that can go for T4 air, so it's probably going to end up being a race for that, right? Because it's the most sort of devastating thing you could do. You don't really have to worry about being forwarded all too much or being strike mech harassed. It's not a very open map at all. So the players have to get the carbon up, probably eat nerfs until the carbon is working for them, and then they're going to have to put down some farms and stuff. Weasel here is on about 7 nerfs. What's JoRt on? Where am I? I'm getting lost here. So I think they both got 8 nerfs, so they maybe go down to 5 nerfs or so. But it's just about getting the carbon live, get the food processor, and then the farms take over, and then the rest of the nerfs you'll just keep. You'll bank them in the nursery. So as long as there's at least 4 there, it should be fine. And oh, actual good. This is the best spawn I've seen in 3 spawns of this map, I think. So again, double shorefish. This is a huge differential here for JoRt. See that this one can do, and you're thinking that that's a nice little differential here for Weasel, but this is huge because it's this is like the fastest food gather rate basically. Other than like hunting, you get 400 food out of these. Probably won't go for that one because of distance and stuff. It's not worth its own food processor. But that 400 food is really going to help him save just a lot here. And it looks like he's kind of thinking about mounting. I mean, Weasel should scout this and just put a little bit of effort into walling. And then this is just not going to happen. And you can absolutely just have such an easier time like mounting when he's got these shorefish, right? This should be a red flag, and I feel like Weasel should actually just be trying to just wall this off. Because he could just keep a worker there and just repair the prefabs all day. There's not really any reason to let Mounties get through on the map here and cause him any grief. Because this is like a hard counter really to like farming, but the fact that you can wall with just like 50 carbon, just huge. Really, really huge. Getting worried here for Weasel because like JoRt's now got a worker here at this point. Not sure what he's building a prefab here for. Not gonna wall the crossing himself, is he? Or the path rather than the crossing. Troop Center going to drop for Weasel, but it's going to be much later because he's invested all this carbon, as you can see. Like, both players had to make a food processor in the first place, but then he's invested about 300 carbon into these farms just to keep himself afloat, and he has to because he doesn't have these unethical shorefish right here. And the scout's going to come in here, causes a bit of disruption, basically takes one of the workers sort of out of the equation by aggroing it. The Mountie going to come in here and cause some problems. Weasel is getting the troop center and the power core up, but it does feel kind of needless when you could just wall, I think. He could have just dropped all his farms, walled, maybe gotten a quicker tech 3 time than his opponent here. And Trooper Recruit comes out and replay breaks, but I think that's because they had to restore the game. So if I go into the next one, there we go. Thank RVA for these things working like that. And the recorded game just continues on. And it's actually not too bad of a hold here for Weasel. JoRt has sort of grabbed control of this area. And got a lot of farms down. I don't know if he's taking a lead off of it, but I guess we could assume that he's always going to be in a natural, like, nice lead here, just because of this 400 food, because it's kind of a lot. I mean, that's basically like he had his own, you know, like he started with a Ronto or a Dewback or something like that, you know? A quick look at the old, kept the worker count even. In fact, I should actually just have a quick look. We'll have a look at the food. See, JoRt has pulled a tiny bit ahead there. Like, yeah, the food's definitely ahead. But I think Weasel's doing okay, and yeah, I think this game's just going to continue on quite comfortably. It's a very decent hold there with the Trooper Recruits. I was a little bit worried when he threw them out here, but it didn't look like JoRt paid too much attention to actually meleeing them down. Because typically, if you're being mounted and the player's in the ball, you don't want to throw your Trooper Recruits out one at a time, because they don't have the DPS. And if 2 Mounties go for them, they'll just die way too quickly and they won't get as much damage as they should. But when you got about 3, you can sort of kite around and sort of deny that surface area to the Mounties and get a lot of damage out quite quickly onto the Mounties. And you can see here, the wall for JoRt is denying the scout of Weasel. But I do think JoRt lost his scout as well, so neither player at this point is going to know what the other's doing, but let's face it, they're both Wookiees, the map's cramped, they're probably both just going to go air, and they know it. We can see a Jedi Temple being dropped here for JoRt. See, there's 1, 2 holocrons here that you can pick up. You can head and grab those on his way to T3 maybe, get that bit of free Nova ticking away, save a few workers on the Nova. And that'll really build in well to the whole air and maybe racing to T4 game that these players are going to go for here. Where is the 5th holo? 1, 2. I was thinking it looks very even there for holocrons, but where's number 5? Am I blind? I feel like I'm blind. Oh, right, well, it's not that even then. I guess there's 3 on JoRt's side. God, that's well hidden. At the pond, the unethical pond with an extra holo as well. It's like he slipped RVA a 5er. So we've got War Center, Mech Factory down. So not going to be grabbing the holocrons too quickly here for Weasel. Let's have a more of a mech opener. Surprising given the map. The spaceport really helps to be like flexible and stuff. Particularly when you're playing air. I mean, I typically like to just sort of buy carbon half the time and not have too many workers on carbon early when I do air. It's just sort of the way I like my eco setup. So I kind of rely on the spaceport for those antics usually. What we could maybe see is both a double air base and maybe like an air transport at some point. And get a few strike mechs over. And that would be very difficult for JoRt to deal with because he's not made a mech factory. Maybe Weasel's thinking about that when he's gone for this sort of play. could really catch your opponent off guard, because then you have to rely on like bombers to defend it, and they're not the best early on to defend like strike mechs. Weasel could maybe get some opportunities with that, where he could kill off the bombers with his own fighters, but it would be a little bit more invested in sort of being aggressive here from the get-go for Weasel, which maybe on the back of that JoRt would have, you know, an extra command center or so, because typically all the carbon when you open this way with air is going to go to like eco upgrades, some more farms, and then some command centers, which really builds in nicely for the whole T4 air shenanigans, because you want to get a lot of farms down and get good food production. I don't think we see Padawan out yet. Oh, there he is, heading over to grab up that hollow. Both players hitting T3 at the same time, so pretty even game now. There's one airbase, two airbase. We got CC, and just one airbase here from Weasel at the moment. So it could work out a little bit tricky for him if JoRt sees this and is much more aggressive with his air. He could overwhelm the air count here. Let's have a look at what Weasel's actually building. Not really building anything at the moment. He's got his airbase up. He went for this early CC. You can see that JoRt not quite getting a CC as of yet. To be fair, where does he even build them? It really is ridiculous. Like, I think this is... I probably shouldn't have built his houses here, because that's actually a location for him. It's probably here and here. And maybe up here as well. So that'll be a lot trickier for him here. See, Weasel grabbing up that ore. So maybe going to play around like turrets and stuff. He gets his second airbase just a little bit later. It's not too bad here. A very early turret here. Double turrets here for JoRt. He's playing very defensive. But that could work out quite nicely for him when he's got a superior air count, right? Because then, if there's a lower amount of air, he's maybe not going to want to take the trades with JoRt. He might want to just go and try and counter-attack him. So JoRt's going to feel very safe to just move out on the map now, I think. And as long as he controls his air well, he won't have too many problems. Where did that Padawan go? There it is. Does he have to get this one? Oh, there it is. Right, so you got the one here, the hollow here. Oh, he doesn't know about the hollow up here. Okay. So he was going there. So another command center going to be dropped here by Weasel, but that is JoRt revealing his air count now. At last he's revealed himself to the purple Wookiees. And they got 4 fighters on 4 fighters here because it's a defender's advantage. And JoRt not really paying attention there too much. He was kind of lucky to get a 1-for-1 trade at the start there, but if he had microed, he could have gone away with that. But he takes another kill there. Weasel chasing him away. And he is chasing him a little bit too far, I would say, into the turret and his own sort of defender counter fighters here. And, you know, Weasel could just lose all 3 of these, and that, well, that JoRt pulls ahead in the count for sure. He had that little bit longer of double airbase, and as long as they're both being very diligent in making them, he's definitely going to be like a couple of fighters ahead, I think. And he could push on this position again and keep denying this sort of command center, but he's going... What's it? There's a bit of a mismatch of the worker rally point here. 5 idols. And JoRt just flying into the air, and Weasel getting a really favourable trade there. He actually comes out ahead because of a bit of a miss micro from JoRt there. And that's given him a lot of breathing room because things are sort of falling apart for him here at the moment. If we go and look at his economy right now, we got 14 idle workers out of 46 workers, and that's not a good thing to realise. And I do hope he realises soon, because that's a lot of his eco that's just sort of taken out of the equation right now. You can see he grabs off those idols there, and he's probably wondering what the hell were you doing? Did I really task 5 of you to build a prefab shelter? But the rally point's probably more tilting, because that's what, 7 workers here just sitting. And he realises now, and they're going away to go and make some farms around this new built command centre. Padawan scouting. Where did he go? Did he get confused or? Oh, he doesn't. Oh, he does know where this one is. I thought that's where he was going. See some sensor posts being dropped here for JoRt, maybe to catch air and stuff. And Weasel's eco going to be looking a lot better now. You can see he's got the command center's down. He's got his farm coverage. just about really getting that food income up. Then you can think about going T4. The hollows are not completely necessary, it's just something that you might want to grab at some point. But might slow down the T4 a little bit. It takes a while for them to kick in, and it's not like they're the civs that get the added bonuses from them either. And we can see that JoRt is coming in again, and he's actually got probably half the amount of fighters here that Weasel does, but they're each going to fly into the other side of the map here. And Weasel's now just sort of, maybe after fixing his economy, he feels like he can go and do some sort of harass now. And he's going to find these 3 workers who were originally on the shorefish, and they're going to be absolutely caught with their pants down here and just gunned down. They're far too exposed over here. And JoRt looking to do some sort of harass here in the areas that just don't have some turrets. A couple of fighters here waiting to maybe take a trade. But nothing to really push away the fighters here from Weasel. It looks like JoRt's just going around the map and maybe back to his base now because he's getting a bit worried. And there shouldn't really be much lag here in a 1v1, so you can actually start a step pretty well around these turrets if you just get the rhythm down. And with this amount of fighters, you can sort of just one tap a worker each time. Because I think it's about like 7 shots or so. He does lose a couple there, not quite got the rhythm down, but still a lot of workers going down. And only 3 command centers at the moment, so we'll be feeling that a little bit. At the same time, JoRt is still managing to plague Weasel here with these fighters. It doesn't look like Weasel's built much fighters during the interim. Just gonna have a quick look at the resources here. Weasel floating 1,000 carbon really needs to get that spent on farms, prefabs, maybe get his research center, maybe he could get another command center or something, maybe use the spaceport a little bit and start thinking about tech level 4. Let's face it, it's the big sort of play for both these players, this being the map and this being the opener for them both. JoRt looks a lot more behind in terms of going to T4 and such, but he's setting up his eco well and he's got a lot of fighters, but that's unfortunately loses these 5 fighters that he's been harassing with here. They're just getting caught by Weasel. So fighter counts are kind of even though Weasel's not been making too many as of late. I don't think that's a very good thing for JoRt here. It just means that Weasel's going to have a lot more disposable income to maybe get that button click up to T4. See, sensor post taking a bit of aggro here from the fighters, and he's just going to want to kill that because he just doesn't like his opponent being able to see so much. It makes raiding a lot harder. You don't really want your opponent seeing your fighters before you can see theirs, because they could get into an advantageous spot or flank you. And the fights being so volatile, you could lose your fighters in an instant. Now we can see JoRt's moving out in the map and he's maybe trying to catch these fighters as they retreat back to his own base. But he might just come in here and kill some workers. He's going to do that. There's been a turret built now. And you can see Weasel can absolutely afford the T4. He's got the research center, he just needs to click the button. He's taking a trade here, it cleans up all of JoRt's fighters, so he should be feeling really good here. He just hits that button off to T4, just use the spaceport, there we go. There's a little bit of selling there, off to T4 he goes, with a superior fighter count at the moment, and maybe just wants to get himself like an extra airbase or 2. And he just needs to chill, right? He knows he's going T4, and he can play it from there. Just get the fighters together, defend himself well. Should feel like he's got a lot of breathing room now after killing off those fighters from JoRt. JoRt on the other hand, he's trying to get up there now. Very close to that count. Does he have his research center? He does. He hits the button, he's off to T4 now, but he's a little bit later. Which means there's going to be a very small window where Weasel has shields and JoRt will not. So probably be fast fighters with shields and maybe armor if it can be afforded. And I'm just going to have a quick look at the old eco as it stands, and see the Weasel's actually quite far ahead in terms of the workers, but there's this 900 Nova from the hollows that's going to be paying a... yeah, it's probably helping out there because a lot of the techs are just very Nova heavy, and then the units themselves as well. But we could rationalise that to make up for that deficit, Weasel does have like 15 more workers or so, which could be, you know, a lot more workers on the Nova in the first place. Though to be fair, JoRt's got an awful lot on Nova as well. So let's see how it plays out as we wait for these players to hit T4. See a heavy weapons factory just going to be built here. Well, Weasel should really be spending the carbon right now just until he gets his vital upgrades. Because there is a bit of carbon in those as well, particularly the fast fighter, advanced fighter, and the shield if he goes for that. Hits T4. Fast fighter. Doesn't really quite afford the shields yet, but that's the one you really want to get started first. He's built 3 extra air bases, so he's going to be up at 5 air bases. There's the shields now. And he's going to grab his holocrons now as well, as they head into that late game. That'd be nice for his eco, just having those holos up. He's got 1 so far, getting the second one now. Fast Fighter's live. Maybe he might be reluctant to go out, just because his opponent's got air. And trading them without shields would probably be a win here for JoRt, since he's behind. But it did take a little bit to get that shield started, so let's say we're at about 62, I think, when I hit this. So he's about 22% ahead in the shield modifications research here. So it's not a huge window at all. And he's going to come in here while he's got these fast fighters, but again, JoRt's going to have fast fighters as well, because it doesn't take that long to get the fast fighter research. But he is going to try and kill off some of these workers, just while he can. And JoRt kind of wants to hide his air just because he assumes he's so behind, you know, in terms of the research. And that's the shields kicked in now. But if you look at JoRt's airbase, just 15% to go. It's not long at all. Just needs to stall a little bit. And yeah, Weasel doesn't really want to go and take a trade. So both players are going to be even out here. Weasel does have the better eco right now, and he is thinking about transitioning as well. And getting the heavy artillery out with the Wookiees and using the air to sort of guarantee them is going to be really good. And if the first player that can sort of get that on the field is probably going to be an advantage. You see JoRt's got the advanced turrets, so Weasel doesn't want to come in here and take a trade. He needs to pull away very quickly. He doesn't want to lose his fighters. He hasn't really got his own advanced turrets at the moment. His research centre's unpowered. He's not even got that queued. He can absolutely afford it though. It might be worth getting in this matchup. I wouldn't say it's too essential though, because you could just use your fighters to defend yourself. But you're going to feel like you can do a lot more raiding, right? As JoRt here, when he's got these turrets to fall back on. He's going to just garrison the workers, let the turret be the deterrents, and then he can, you know, try and hit some other open area of the base here of Weasel. So artillery starting to be built here. Not really much of a transition here for JoRt, but let's face it, there's not a lot of room either for him to build stuff. I'm gonna get stuck there fighting a prefab. He takes a really bad look at the unit arc here for Weasel. Oh, and he patrols in, and he patrols in just into another arc. Weasel just gonna win that comfortably every day. Even though he's only got fast fighters and JoRt has advanced fighters, it's just a really bad positioning here. Both players have armor as well, so JoRt did have advanced fighter and armor, but to funnel into such like an arc, it just means that every single unit there was firing. Just volleying that column of fighters very quickly. A few artillery now out here. And he's maybe not wanting to reveal them until he's got like a substantial amount and he's got some upgrades for them. Where he can just sort of blitzkrieg through, kill the gate, kill the prefabs, and take JoRt unawares here. But it doesn't need to do that either. He could actually just kill the trees around this as well and just create like a bit of space here. It would be very beneficial to maybe just kill all of this. Probably be nice to have the fortress just make an air cruiser, just attack ground here, and then give yourself space to get your units in this position, get a shield up. And you could try and knock JoRt off this, you know, 2 Nova piles here. That's it. I think they've each got 2. Oh, that's kind of crap. This man really needs an AC. He's got like a 3rd Nova pile here, just hidden in the trees. Oh, I can't see it either. Oh, that sucks. This map, man, horrible. So the tree around there, see the trees are just destructible. If you attack round, you can just kill them all. Give yourself space and stuff. People need to be a little bit more clever with that because they can really give themselves a lot more better positioning. Oh, a transport getting caught there. I don't know if he was maybe trying to grab like a... Ah! I love these types of forwards against airing players. Problem is he doesn't have anywhere to hide these workers, so you could just kill the workers. And that would be the play here. Yeah, it catches it here. There is a turret, but yeah. You could maybe just send a couple of mounties over there or something, make sure that this dies. But that would have been a really nice forward there. Because then you can start throwing out the repeater troopers, right, and use the turret to get the air to go away. And the troopers from Wookiees are just so good. Once you get that research that's in the command center that gives them like extra health and armor and stuff, and like self-regen, they're amazing. At least I think they have self-regen, I can't remember. Wookiee trooper strong, that's all to take away from that. Look at the 10 range Wookiee artillery, the classic meme. As you know, they can go up to 12. They get the research center tech and then their own racial one in the heavy weapons factory, and range is just it's absolutely huge in this game. I would just like to see him kill these trees just so his units can move in a bit better, and he's got some space to build stuff. But he's going to be very ambitious here, it seems. And just throw up troop centers and a shield generator, and seems to be kind of aware that there's not a lot of units here at all. But he's going to need his air to keep the fighters off of his troopers, because troopers die very quickly to advanced fighters here. And to be honest, so do artillery. The fighters would be a very good hold for this. What JoRt should maybe look to do is just have turrets, like closer, and crawl turrets towards this so that the fighters can't, you know, kill off his own fighters. But it looks like Weasel's just sort of going for the jugular here. He sensed this sort of moment of weakness here in the transition from JoRt. And he's just funneling everything he can into this location. Artillery, troopers, there's a few here that he needs to grab, bring forward, but he's going to get this troop center up. Unfortunately, it would probably be better if this was a shield first. Did want to make a shield here, but he seems to have cancelled it, or it got destroyed. And JoRt's really struggling to get enough out to deal with this. Shield generator going to go up now, and the shield generator plus the artillery being in position, that's really going to make things difficult. Because they're going to have so much range, and then by them getting their health doubled as well. It's just going to have to call GG there. And my throat's getting a little bit hoarse. God damn, I've been talking too much for that game. So that's a really exciting first game, and nice to see the way that that sort of played out. Pretty interesting. Do hate the map though. Do hate the map. Right, we'll go into the next game. So that's 1-0 for Weasel. And we're going to return to the Yield Faithful Desert, as you can see. And we've got a 6/8 nerf start here. That's a really nice layout here for JoRt. He's going to find his nerfs very quickly. That's comfy. That's up to 10. 10 nerfs. What's going on? 10 nerfs. Seems to be some neutrally open. It doesn't look like there's any lure. So just sort of 10 nerfs, and yeah, this is going to be kind of a good mounty map, to be honest. Because you've already got the nursery, and the players are going to definitely have to farm. So I might see mounties out of either both or just one of the players, but it's going to be the map for it. I might want to speed it up a bit before I like run out of vocal cords. And yeah, it's the boring early game T1, no lure. Going to be stuck in T1 for the rest of our lives. So what the player's going to do, as you can see, eating a nerf just to sort of keep the production flowing. And it's kind of going to be the same as last time, we just eat a couple of nerfs until we've got like food processors down and some farms. But what you could maybe do is eat a lot more of your nerfs and mounty early while your opponent's building farms, and see if you can get yourself into a winning position off of that. You can either keep building mounties if you really snowball hard and catch your opponent off guard, or you can try and go for the rush follow-up, or you can go for the quicker T3 as well. You're just kind of setting yourself ahead into an advantageous position, and then you make the right decision from there. It's quite flexible what you do. I'm going to be dropping the food process. It cancels it instantly. Didn't like that placement. Maybe that's too... It's always hard to sort of gauge. Maybe it's easier with grid, but I don't use grid because it looks crap when I do videos. So It's always been a bit of a YOLO with the placement of the food procs. And we got a lot of workers still on carbon here for Weasel and no food can't speak of food processor as of yet. Sort of yawning there. And trying to speak at the same time. So 2 farms down. We'll be in 2 nerfs here, I think, for JoRt. That's still going to feel really good, eating 2 nerfs and then having 8 nerfs. And Weasel on the other hand... JoRt's found them, but often when you find your opponent's nerfs like this, if you're not planning on giving them to your opponent, you best to maybe just leave them where they are. So we got Weasel doing what we kind of talked about there, just eating a lot more of the nerfs rather than getting the farms down and trying to get the mounties out quickly. And you can see he had all those workers on carbon and he's managed to get the troop center and the power core, and I think he's kind of built them at the same time just to limit the amount of time that JoRt has to react to it. If he's scouting his opponent, he waits till the 360 and drops them both at the same time. He doesn't get to see, like, say the troop center get built at 160 carb and then the power core follow a little bit later. But he's been very quick to actually cut some corners here at home, get his own troop center and power core, and he's already got 1 recruit out now as well. So this might feel a little bit worse off for Weasel here. We will see. Mountie's going to come in, but there's going to be 3 recruits already. JoRt's done very well to get this troop center and power core up. And that's already going to be at half health, there being 3 trooper recruits, and there's not really much you can do here. You can only really just tickle the animal nursery. And he can be behind in his farm count here. That's Weasel's food. 100. I don't know why it does this. Yeah, JoRt's definitely a bit higher here. He's got more farms. He's technically he's got more nerfs as well, which has probably played a bit of a role there. He's having the 2 nerfs longer. These trooper recruits out, he's going to feel fine here. He's going to get a 2nd troop center and he's going to start thinking about getting off to T2. Just doing a bit of garrisoning there. Probably just grabbed everything there, and that's why he got the recruits, and he's off to T2 now. For Weasel, he's kind of trapped in T1 a bit, but there's not really much he can do to delay his opponent because he didn't really make too many mounties, he didn't really get any damage with them. And he seems to have just brought them home. Probably be better to just keep them on this side of the map. They're not going to do anything for him at home. And it looks like he's maybe just thinking about doing a wall off here. He's going to have to spend a lot of carbon on it, but if he does get the full wall off here, his opponent's not going to be able to get the troopers into his base, right? And there is going to be like 8 troopers heading across the map momentarily. Kills off this scout with his mounties. 7 troopers. They'll be heading across. They can maybe stand here. The most annoying thing would be a turret getting placed in this location, but he does have a backup carbon already, so I could go over here as well. So for JoRt, it's probably just going to be build as much farms as he can right now and just try and get to T3 quicker. But the problem with Weasel here is he really has way too much carbon at the moment. Maybe need some more farms. How many farms has he got? 14? Maybe use a couple more, like up to 16 or so. I'm gonna have to lean on the spaceport. You know, I think he could get to T3 quicker here. JoRt's actually built quite a lot of troopers. Each one representing, you know, like 25 food. So we've got Mech Factory, War Center. He's on the Nova as well, so he's not going to use the spaceport here. Let's see if he's going to have the food. Almost. Try garrison there. Nerf's ticking away the extra bit. There he is. He's off to T3. JoRt's coming through the wall. He needs to repair this though. I'm going to block it with the Mech Factory. He needs to block this side as well. Oh, please block this. Don't let me see you die in such a way. Going to use another War Center. So the War Center and the Mech Factory here just blocking. But there is 2 Mounties here from JoRt he seems to have built just to try and get a bit more DPS, and he's going to kill these workers as he tries to build this. Power core does cover these, but it doesn't cover this mech factory it used to wall. Would have been handy to just make a spaceport here instead of this one. Maybe a bit of a panic move. He's going to build a turret. Turret's smart. It's going to make him move away here. He just doesn't want to sit there and just die. You can go up and go for this prefab maybe. But Weasel is T3 now. JoRt's halfway there. I think JoRt should just keep the pressure on and try and go through this. Could hide away and wait for his own T3 units. You can maybe lure Weasel into thinking he can go and harass now, because he's going to want to do that, right? Let's look at Weasel's eco. I'm feeling the richest now after all of the carbon that he's had to spend. And he's actually got 3 mech factories queued up, and the one that doesn't have any power. Might want to get a power droid over there, buddy. He's got his airbase down, so he's going to have 2 mech factory airbase harassment here. There's already 2 strike mechs out for JoRt. He's got his 2 mech factories down. Strike mech's coming in here, but I think JoRt's perspective here, he fights these with his strikes, tries kills them off, and then he just counterattacks with way more strikes, right? He's got a good wall. Oh, that's a really nice wall. Got the gate and everything. Yeah, that's not a bad wall at all. Both players have very easy wall-offs here on Desert. Which is kind of surprising, because it's meant to be a much more open map than this. It's nice to see it balanced like that, because normally it's only one person's got the super easy wall-off, and then the other's got the most open base known to man. And the fighters are coming in here, but there's already a lot of anti-air troopers here. The troop centers could be just dedicated to that. And strike mechs from JoRt here are going to try and find an angle to harass, but he's given up on this carbon, so it's not really that harassable. And this one's kind of safe, because look how thick it is at the back here. You know, you need a fair bit of range just to pepper these guys. But he's coming on to this mech destroyer here, and you could absolutely bully this mech destroyer. You see, he's trying to use the low health one there just to affect its minimum range, because it must have been targeting that one. So you can always just walk up to them and make the mech destroyers just walk back all the time as they try to shoot at the unit that's too close to them. They try to get themselves in the right range. At the same time, we got the counter-attack here, and he did sneak a mech destroyer over during this. I might tone this down a bit, it's getting a little bit ahead of me, whatever's happening here. But defending mech destroyer, and he still has the troopers to lean on here as well. So both players are actually killing off a couple of workers and stuff. Killing off a few units, but it is looking quite even. It's going to feel kind of bad for Weasel losing 2 mech destroyers here. And he wants to maybe just chill out with that. He has to remember that JoRt's got all these troopers as well, and when it starts going in like mech destroyer v mech destroyer, the trooper's going to actually serve a huge purpose there, because they can soak up a lot of the damage, and they can throw in just a little bit of that sort of differential damage in between the shots. And a lot of these units half health as well. It's going to be very difficult for Weasel to hold in this position. He maybe wants to be a lot closer to his base here. And if anything, he's probably got these units repaired. Mech destroyers were a little bit lagging behind there for JoRt, so he kind of pulled away. And that's maybe giving Weasel a bit of time to rethink this. He's going to be going up to 3. Mech 5. He's never gotten this one powered. I think maybe he just assumes it is powered. Because, I mean, he's building the mech destroyer out of the one that's not powered. That's got to be, like, a mistake. You must think that's the one that's got power, right? Has power now, though. And moving out in the map again. Look at the upgrades. Yeah, both players got pretty much all the upgrades they need there. Maybe both just missing armor or something. Really trying to get into a good position here. Both players, 2 CCs, so a very aggressive open desert game here. Nice to see. Both these players definitely at a sort of inner level here, the way that they're playing. And the trooper's not faring too well there. I think there's kind of just a lack of mech destroyers with us. Did get range for the troopers here, but not doing enough. At the end of the day, it's still like 2 mech destroyers for like 4. The strikes just aren't going down quick enough. Not at the same speed that they kill all those troopers. So it's going to be a lot more simple now in terms of defending here for JoRt, where it's just going to be mechs now. The units that could really make a big differential though, particularly the fact that he's got range for his troopers, is Grenadiers. Because these will frontline and the Grenadiers actually do a lot of damage to the strikes and the MDs. And particularly if they clump up as well, then you can do so much more damage. A few fighters coming across, maybe because he saw those anti-air troopers die. He's going to look and see if he can do some sort of harass here on the left hand side of the base. Particularly while he's pushing here at the front here. So he's distracting his opponent while harassing him at the same time. It's the best time to sort of maximise the damage you might get out of that. But we do have a kind of sort of hill fight versus low ground here. He's going to get on the Nova, kill off those workers. That's going to distract JoRt here. Maybe make a mistake, not retreat in the same way. He's got a sort of kite here with his units. And the strike mech's actually dodging here as he runs behind. And this mech destroyer that's freshly made is just going to get sort of spawn killed by these 5. And they're very healthy, these 5, and he can just keep the pressure on here as the mech destroyer count gets low. Another one comes out, he could maybe have grabbed this one, but it's actually sneaking past him here. Maybe doing a bit of macro at home. He was moving these fighters around. And you can just keep killing off these mechs. That's 6 HP mech destroyer. A little bit of overkill there. And I think Weasel should pull back a little bit here. I don't think he needs to like lose all of this health. It's kind of making it easier for JoRt when he loses these 2 mech destroyers. Like having that long extended fight. His fight should kind of just be, he comes in and he just, you know, he one-taps things. Every time he gets a chance, he one-taps a mech destroyer and never lets JoRt get up to like a reasonable count of like 3 or 4. And where's the reinforcements? There's a lot just sitting here at home. You could really just be putting the pressure on right now. Like, if we look at Weasel's resources right now, he can afford a fortress. So he could just be rallying everything up to this point and then getting a fortress down and securing this Nova and boxing JoRt in here in his base. But because he's not really reinforced it, JoRt has gotten a few more mech destroyers out and he's pushing him away from this position now. And Weasel kind of losing an opportunity to just maybe close the game out here, then and there. We're having that Nova as well, he can justify going like artillery or something, which will trade much, much better here. And he's going to have a much better eco as well. Now JoRt does push back a little bit. He's going to grab at this command center because he feels really contained here. Needs like some fresh carbon. And he's going to want to get more units out here. But naturally, Weasel's going to get further and further ahead the longer this goes on. Just because he's got these 3 mech factories and he can definitely sustain them. And I think that's why a lot of the time now he's winning a lot of these trades. They do have like an even count of mech destroyers here. In fact, JoRt does have 1 more. Strikes aren't going to matter too much here when there's an extra mech destroyer. Not too much micro though. These units are getting to half health. Again, the Grenadiers would be so good here. And even like a mounted tech switch as well, it would just really help because the units would feel the need to run away. And these ones that are on low amounts of health would just get killed off very quickly. Just sort of cold. You see the workers coming in, he has the sort of right idea, but you know, if that was like 5 minutes ago, he could have really gotten this fortress up while JoRt was right up against the ropes. So we're going to get a fortress in a defensive location now, so he sort of just relinquished that he can break his opponent here. I'd maybe like to see like a bomber out of Weasel or something, just to make things a bit more uncomfortable. That's the thing that I think these players are both just lacking, is trying to tech switch in like the other units that could help them, you know, just win off these fights. Because JoRt's only 2 mech factories, because he kind of feels maybe he can only afford 2 mech factories and produce out of them. But, you know, Grenadiers being, and Mounties being food and Nova, you could definitely make those. And you've got the 2 troop centers, he's already got the range, you could make really good use out of those researches. And it could help him win these fights. Now, Fortress is going to feel really great in this matchup if you can get the Famba Shield. There it does. The Famba Shield generator is so goddamn broken in T3 because it has like 20/20 armor, nothing damage. Like MDs just tickle the thing. It's going to mean so much in these trades if you can just walk about with shields. And he's got so many mechs out now as well. When he gets the Famba, he walks over. It's going to feel really good for him here. And JoRt's really going to be in a terrible position because he needs to defend this location. Because look how many workers he's got around this command center. And to be fair, by extension, his Nova's here as well. And, you know, this area in his ore is quite accessible. This base is kind of open in this regard because this wall's behind here. He's going to get a shield generator now. And by the time he gets over with the Famba, the shield generator will have been built. And that's really going to work well for JoRt here as he tries to defend this. However, what Weasel could do is just go left. And he could just stand here and pepper the economy. He doesn't need to funnel into this location. He seems to really want to go there. But he doesn't need to. And he doesn't want to really trade into this, I don't think. There is a few MDs that are not joining the fight here though, but his formation's a little bit crap. And when he wants to reposition his units and stuff, when he selects a Famba, they're going to move kind of slow. But JoRt is not really microing too well here. You see a couple of the MDs are just not even firing. Oh, he is getting the artillery switch in though. Artillery would be really good here. There's a lot more mechs coming in though, and another Famba. And again, when you look at this now, when there's just a couple of strikes, like Grenadiers and these shields would be so goddamn good. And Mounties as well, getting onto this. I think Gren's probably the best though. Mounties a little bit worse with shields involved. He's just sort of walking up now, and he can just keep reinforcing here. And he's going to try and build some heavy weapons factories in this area. He's going to stand here and bully. See, the artillery don't take a lot of damage at all from the Metstars. They're just so good in T3 at this point against these. JoRt going to try and get a fortress up. They're very clever here. While he's got these units here distracting the fire, the MDs don't have enough DPS to stop them building the fortress. And it's probably going to push Weasel back here. The thing is though, he's going to get these heavy weapons factories up, and he could just make pummels from this location. And they're going to be shielded when they come out. And the pummels could take down the fortress very quickly. Let's see if we maybe just make a pummel here. He's pulling back. The Grens come in. The Grens, really smart to get the Grens. The Grens really help here. And he doesn't want any of that. He's pulling back. And JoRt hits T4 as well. Now if JoRt can get a stable army of like artillery, maybe some Grens, some MDs here, it's going to feel really nice. And he's going to have cannons right now because Weasel not quite T4 yet. Let's see what JoRt's actually doing with his fortress. He's going to make some cannons. Again, there's still a lot of wiggle room here for Weasel to do damage. And honestly, I think Weasel should just go left. Because none of this applies to that, and you can just shut down the economy from the other side. He could get like a shield here, and he could just turtle in this spot, right? And just have his units here. But the cannon out, not really doing anything at the moment. JoRt's just probably just trying to fix a lot of stuff that went wrong during all that with his eco, because you know it's been a lot of micro and a lot of panicking there because he nearly almost lost in that position. He's got these 9 range Grenadiers here, a few MDs. He's getting heavy artillery, and maybe he just wants to switch to artillery strike mechs. You can see a strike mech getting built there, just so he doesn't die to like Mountie switch or anything like that. You can see a troop center being dropped here now for Weasel. And he hits T4 as well, so that's a window to get onto him here with the cannons kind of closing now. He's going to push up though. But what's maybe going to feel bad is not having shields in these positions, and maybe he should get his own Famba, to be honest. Like, Fambas are still good. Like, that armor is just great. You know, and it's like 300 health too. Strong unit. I'm just trying to work out how to use this army, maybe. He's actually going to use the strike mechs to go and harass. No, this is just troopers coming out here. The strikes probably... I think it'd be better to just keep everything together, to be honest. I don't know how much damage the 5 strikes can do. Because you can kind of just rally the MDs to it and deal with it. If you've got research tracking as well, it's not that devastating. He's trying to see if he can get some favourable trades here while he's distracted with the strike mechs. There goes the heavy strike mech kicks in now. And to be fair, the army not paying attention to it and it's walking forward a bit too much here. Again, JoRt not actually paying attention to strikes. They're just, you know, policing the prefab shelters at the moment. And this side's still walled out, but you could get in here onto the farm. If you get into this spot, you can kill off a lot of workers for sure. However, there are two mech destroyers, mech factories right here that can just make some MDs to deal with them. And at this point, I don't think it's too hard to just replace these workers as such. But we'd like to see Weasel paying a little bit more attention. He's running his mounties back. Don't do that. Okay, he's going to keep them there. Hide them. Needs to get a good mountie count up here. The JoRt is actually reinforcing the army here with some strike mechs, so he's doing quite well not to just overextend himself and get like killed off by a mountie tech switch. Mechs are not running the right way. He's actually pulled a lot of them back. Maybe too many to go and deal with this. Weasel actually suffering way too much damage from such a small, simple raid here. And while that's going on, because he's pulled a lot of his units away, JoRt, tactical genius here, gonna take down the fortress with his cannon that he built way, way earlier, and his artillery surging forward as well. He's got his +1 range. Those Gungan energy balls are flying over here, and you can see that damage output. It's gonna take that fortress down. There's no way you can repair this. You can't even get workers into position. I don't know if he's maybe tried to click on it here, but look, they're kind of stuck. These two guys are sitting here and they're just like, you know, paths closed. This Famba's stranded at the moment, and this choke is really causing problems here. And there's so many strike mechs out now that I don't think a mountie tech switch is going to work here. You know, he's got all these advanced mounties, but look at how many strikes. Now, if he runs them away from the army, it might. Like, this could be a moment right here to just delete one of these buildings and run the mounties at the army. And just send the MDs to fight the strike mechs. When he sees these mounties, he needs to run back to his artillery. Like right now, he could kill this. He could have killed this army. I think he would have already been fighting it before these strikes arrived from the mech factories. Just kind of reluctant to, you know, go for the army there. I guess he's gonna clear up these strikes here, but he's kind of like really like permanently on the back foot here. And as more and more strikes get out, you know, this army's going to do a lot better. He needs to get his units together. The army needs to be together. He's going with the mounties here, but these units are not doing anything. They're stuck behind his own buildings. And the mounties are blowing up a few of the artillery here in the back. There are, you know, strike mechs. If they just had the MDs killing off the strikes as well, standing maybe in this spot, you get a lot more damage. A few troopers saturating the lines now there, that'll do a lot better with the mounties as well. And I think he's just going to call GG there. It's kind of just falling apart for him there. And it's kind of sad to see him lose that one in the end, because I think he really could have won the game here. But yeah, JoRt has held strong there and just played a little bit better there in T4, I think. Weasel's sort of falling behind there. Yeah, going to be 1-1. So we're going to head into the next game. So this will be a best of 5. So it's the first person to get 3 wins. And we're going to be Republic Mirror here. And it's going to be Desert again, so both players just picking Desert when they lose. None of that Krant nonsense. And yeah, this is my god, is it the mighty farm off? It is. It's a farm off. So Republic going to feel nice here, just having the extra population. And man who only build 1 prefab shelter going to feel even better than man who build 2. Because you're just saving that carbon for a little bit longer, right? And that's actually going to feel really meaningful when you're, you know, 11 pop. So the idea here is get the food processor. Once you realise that, my god, there's no food on the map, you're going to want to get like 6 farms really, just to keep the worker production going. If you're rebels, you probably get away with 5. Once you get your farms down, then you get your carbon, and then back to farms. You could maybe switch, like fit in like a second carbon processor at some point. It's kind of hard to really know the exact moment to do that. So you see JoRt going to build his farms here. He's doing the same. And yeah, I better speed this up because this is going to be slow. This is like the slowest T1 you can have. And I mean, I'm already 54 minutes in and my throat is suffering. I'm getting hit with a mild bit of hay fever as well. It's not a good look. But yeah, how's everyone? All good? Smashing. What is the COP? Someone else slipping RV a 5er. Just random... Oh, there's a couple of EOPs here. Where did they come from? No, there's 3 here, but they're guard... Rancors like they're shepherd. Didn't notice that. That's going to feel really nice. That's like an extra 140 food. That's probably why he's 3 farms and carbon processor. Poor JoRt here. Getting shafted. Give RVA more money. You have to hack the map for you. No lure. That's not a question to ask 6 minutes in. Not when you're both. Oh, is this what he's been up to? Ah. Weasel being that Age of Empires player, getting his AoE skills in. Unfortunately, it's very difficult to do with these bloody things and fast game speed. Looks like he's had enough. He's just going to go and build a food processor, is he? Good long distance, I suppose. I mean, it's kind of a lot of a walking time, but you know, it might feel good just to get that extra bit of food without investing the carbon. I think maybe at this distance, I'd probably just build the farms. I don't know if he lured the first one. I missed that. They might have just walked into a decent spot though. You never know with these things. And like AoE, because it's like normal speed, the deer are pretty, like the animals are pretty like simple in how they respond, but I think the Gaia, EOPs and Cadus here are a bit rogue compared to the deers in AoE. The Fambas seem to be the one that's very easy to lure. I think it's just because they're bigger and bulkier. It's quite simple where you're going with the scout and stuff. So he's long distance mining those, so we'll keep an eye on how this develops. There's a double carbon now for JoRt. Not quite making too much use of it yet. Could use a few more workers over here. He's munched those EOPs now. Gonna garrison them back, send them off to maybe make some farms or onto carbon. And right, let's have a quick little comparison then. It's not much of a lead. It's not really a lead actually when you look at the carbon collection. So you can say that the EOPs are not really that worth it. Is it mounted into like a worker lead? No, I think it's really just sort of sitting behind here. The farms are kind of just the way to go there. So yeah, I think maybe unless you can get on the EOPs like instantly. Like if you notice them right at the start, got a food processor. That's probably the only time that they're really going to pay off here. JoRt, just with the very consistent farms, is just he's ahead, and he's ahead by quite a bit of carbon as well. Now we're going to see Weasel go for the troop centre. Now the thing that you might note when you play this out yourself is how much food you actually get, because you're forced to make so many farms. It's kind of unbalanced for doing like a trooper rush. I mean, it does work well for like I think it's more like you get T2, you're going to notice that you've got so much food that you could probably just T3, right? And you might feel more inclined to just go for defensive, you know, T3s. So maybe getting like 2 turrets in your carbon and just going T3. Just because of the way that the eco works. Now, Weasel a little bit late to scout here. You can see that there's a war center, a spaceport down. He's gonna get a few troops. It'd probably be better to just like not build the second troop center here if he just scouted this. And with the 1 troop center pressure, you know, you can maybe sort of weather the storm a lot better. And maybe get a bit of damage out here onto JoRt, right? See JoRt's sort of long distance rallying here. Just so he's got his ore, he's gonna drop his double turrets. He's got a bit of a decent wall off there as well. It's gonna feel quite safe. The power core right up against the command center too. It's quite a good defensive base for a T3, so Weasel funneling his troops across. But he is spending all this food on troopers now, and to be fair, the trooper tech, but he's going to get 2 mounties as well. That's why I thought he would have a bit more food there. Maybe try and go for the power core. Can definitely harass a lot of these workers here on this side, but there's a good amount of farms that are just guaranteed by the turret. It's such a good defensive placement here from JoRt. And he maybe wants to kill off these farms while he can, Because he's not going to be able to walk in the turrets, so he might as well be killing something of value, and that would be the farms. You can see JoRt T3 now, and he maybe he's just going to run in and try and kill workers. So you can see what I mean, it's a very easy T3, right, when you have to make all these farms. Oh, he's killing off a few workers though. However, how trapped in T2 is he? He's actually going for the jugular here. With the thing is, there's these turrets that you can fall back on with the strike mechs, and like the mounted play would normally be kind of okay against someone that's going like T3 strikes, but when you've got these turrets to fall back on, it's not going to work out. And they kind of cover the power core really well as well. It's going to be a tough hold here for Weasel, and I think JoRt maybe just outplayed him with the T3. They're going to chase these away, but then when the fighters come as well, he's got an air base down. It's going to be difficult with that sort of division of the T3 units, the strike mechs in the air, and he's getting past the mounties in a more advantageous position. Hard to micro though, he just kind of wants to just run away. Where did the fighter go? The fighters are just sitting here idle at the moment. Do you really try to out micro these? He's never going to win. You need like 3 at least. It's like juggling. Fighter's getting here onto the carbon, and Weasel just going to resign here. I'd be forgetting his old GG there. So that 2-1 to JoRt now. We're going to get into the next game. Desert again. Forever Desert. So we've got 8 nerfs here. So we've got up to 16, I think. 12, 20? What's the spawn? 8, 12. Huh. I don't think I've really seen that before. I think these are Weasels, these are JoRts. Unless I'm blind, which is very likely. So Weasel going to get them all. Up to 20. JoRt going to be at 12. Feels bad, man. Nursery for 1 nerf. It's kind of bad spawn, that. Nothing he could do. Unless he's like attack or die and you just scout his opponent instantly. Attack or die would have had 30 nerfs. The king of the nerf finding. So yeah, Weasel gonna have a really strong early game here. Considering there's not really any other food on the map either, so it's gonna feel even worse. And JoRt just sending everything onto carbon, and I think he's probably just gonna mount me. Feel he has to. The thing is, Weasel's doing the same thing, and he's already got the troop center. He's just gonna be so much further ahead, and he's gonna pull ahead in workers. I think JoRt probably should have just eaten this nerf as well. This can't really sustain too much, and then he's gonna be making mounties as well. It's kind of a map screw this. It really sucks. Quite close distance to one another as well. This is probably a bit now we're running out of food. Food processing, you can only get one mountie out. So I probably had to eat this other nerf. Just to keep it going. That extra 200 would help for the time being. Just afford up to 2, maybe 3 mounties. So mountie going in here. You're not really paying attention to it too much, but unfortunately you're going to have 2 mounties coming into his base. And he's just placed some farms here. He's not actually got any trooper recruits. He can repair his workers at least, well both players can, but eventually going down there. And 1 worker. It's going to be 2 workers, and you know, Weasel's just got so much more eco, right? Being like 8 nerfs ahead. So it's going to be a really easy defense from here, and you can just terrorize JoRt with these 2 mounties. 2 trooper recruits out now, but I think Weasel can just focus on going T2 now. If anything, he's just get another troop center. He's got a lot of res, almost at that 500 food. He's got like 350 carbon to play with. He just T2s, you get some troopers out, and then yeah, JoRt's kind of just snookered, I think. See, he's only at half the food count. Cancel that worker, yeah. You get up to maybe you can get turrets out and stabilize. It's gonna be a really hard game for him the whole time. It's just sad to see. Such weird spawning that, just because of these tree clusters maybe. Like instead of it like spawning like here or something, it just got like sent over here. Oh, he's just gonna go T3, okay. That works as well, I think. That's gonna feel even worse, to be honest. Double manufacturing, just gonna go T3. Yeah, I think you could have killed him with troops as well. Right, is left JoRt able to actually counterattack him here? Because he's not really built the troops, he's not upgraded them. Interesting, I don't really see that coming out anywhere. Do I actually send the troopers over? Gonna see the buildings though. Worry a little bit. Gonna wall the turret out here. You can grab a couple more workers, but they do get garrisoned. You're gonna maybe try and stand on the turret here. Almost, but he's always walling it out. Hits T3 now. The Mountie being made. It's going to be double mech factories, and they are both powered this time. And once he gets up to about 5 strike mechs or so, it's going to really feel bad for JoRt. So he tries to get spaceport down. Doesn't have the other building yet. Not really got a lot of food at all. He's built the Mountie, he's built a lot of troopers as well. They're building some anti-air troopers. I don't even think there's an air base yet though, but he doesn't know that. Kind of feels like he needs it. Gonna have to lean on turrets here for sure. Not really an ore that you can grab up or defend very well. Being able to go up to like 3 or 4 turrets would help. Oh, voice getting really hoarse. The strikes running in here. They can't really get too much done at the moment just because they're low mount. But as he gets to like 4 or 5, you know, he's got double mech factory, get his upgrades. They're really just gonna be an absolute menace here. He's gonna just get into this spot. This spot's horrible because he's gonna shut down like all the farms. And then he can put some, like he can rally his next ones just behind the carbon here. JoRt is so close to hitting the button. He's really trying there. He's off to T3. He's going to be falling further and further behind. New carbon here. I'm going to be honest, Weasel could be going a bit harder on him here. See a few of the strikes just sitting at home. He's getting these behind the carbon, right? Just want to bleed your opponent out here. You abuse the extra range, like 8 range on the strike max, you know. The turrets are 7 range. Yeah, sit behind the carbon and that's just going to feel awful. There's nowhere to go to get carbon. There's a couple of straggler trees that you can eat, but then the strikes are here as well. And yeah, he's just going to call GG because there's just nothing you can really do. It sucks that, you know, that's happened with the old nerfs. When you got the old nerfs and then you're both mounting and you're so close to one another as well, it's a lot of factors built up there. So, going to be 2-2 there. And yeah, this will be the decider. And it's going to be desert again. Players loving desert. So we're off to 12 nerfs there for JoRt. It's already a good start. I'll be anxious to find the last 4 after last game. And it's going to be a really high food map here. We've got 4 dewbacks, a couple of AOPs, and 16 nerfs. And yeah, much more reasonable spawns for the players in terms of distance and the nerfs and stuff. So it should be a good, even game here, I'm hoping. Just making sure this scout doesn't get possessed by attack or die. Yeah, he's just going round in circles, not making a beeline for the nerfs. It's fine. Right, he's got his 16. We're good. We have an even matchup now. And that's not really to take anything away from the way Weasel played it. Played it really well. Played that advantage really, really well. But, you know, it is a significant advantage. And as I said, a lot of factors stack up there as well. Just the distance and everything. And, you know, JoRt could have played it a little bit better, I think, eating that nerf and maybe holding off on that nerf. He just kind of assumed he was going to get another 4 nerfs. So, carbon processor early here. I don't think I found the dewbacks yet, have I? No, he does. Is he going to mount me again? Do you have a dew here? I think JoRt's going to mount me as well, but he's getting a little bit of buffer food, right? The buffer food's nice, because, you know, eventually you're going to be making workers and mounties. So buffer food good. I'm going to go make a prefab. I think JoRt's got a very nice layout for mounties. He could do a little bit of long Nova mining here. Just get a few extra tens of Novas and get more mounties. But let's see. Troop center down. Don't they get a lot of workers on food? Maybe they are going to go for a more even game. A more normal game rather. T2 trooping. It's always hard to actually properly read when I'm watching it, just because the amount of food, you underestimate the amount of food the nerfs give. I don't think anyone's going for like super fast now, mounties. Just barely afford. Nice to have a little bit of Nova, so you can get a few more mounties. Long distance with a Nova. And Mountie heading. Well, sitting at home. Weasel getting housed, not good when you try to Mountie. But fortunately isn't his Mountie, but it might, you know, stop. Well, he's not going to be able to get another Mountie because he doesn't have any Nova. Right, 2 Mounties out, heading across. Let's have a look at how JoRt's getting on here. He's got his own Mountie, he's building his second one, so he's a little bit behind in that regard, but I think he's going to be way ahead in terms of taking up to T2. Yeah, you got like a food lead there. I'll quick look, see how things have lined up here. You see the difference of priorities there. It's a good amount of carbon lead here for Weasel, but 100 food for JoRt. We'll see how this works out. Now he's going to see the 2 mounties heading towards him. And yeah, Weasel might get a bit of damage here. Particularly if Weasel manages to make some trooper recruits at home. He's not making anything though. So the 2 mounties from JoRt are going to eventually get here, and then there's going to be 2 from Weasel now. But JoRt's going to be much closer to T2. Like when he garrisons these, I think he's on his way. Yeah, he is. And you can start building up trooper recruits, and not a lot of damage happening here, but JoRt not paying attention though, trooper recruits sneaking out again. This is like what happened in the first game. He just didn't actually micro the mounties, and he could have killed off both these trooper recruits. Because his big sort of advantage here is going to be the follow-up. It's going to be when he pushes across the map as soon as he gets T2. And if he's sitting and killing off these trooper recruits as they're spawning, he's increasing how impactful that follow-up is going to be. How many troopers he's going to have in comparison to his opponent. But you can see that they're kind of at an even count now, when he maybe could have killed off 2, 3, maybe even 4 of these, depending on how quickly he reacted to them coming out one at a time. Which is why I always recommend that people build them up to about 3 in the troop center and then throw them out. Unless the Mounties are like at half health or something like that from being punched in the face by your Glurgs. So here comes the counter attack, but again, since he's not really tapped any of these troopers, it's going to be a lot easier hold. Weasel halfway there. I think by the time he gets there, he sort of stalls, moves back a few times, and then he's got trooper upgrade. I think maybe JoRt going to think about a T3. Then again, he goes and makes these troopers now. He's like made with wall here. He comes in, he's got range at the moment, which he can abuse. He's got the trooper upgrade. And he wants to try and kill these off as quickly as possible. Distracted by the worker here. He could just one tap all of these. And Weasel getting his upgrades, but he's not built any turrets. Yeah, he's kind of just he's sort of bottled this a little bit. He should have just gotten like at least one turret while that was happening, in case that happens, and maybe just ran his troopers back a little bit until they got his upgrades. Taking the trade at trooper recruit, that's kind of an anticlimactic end there. And unless I'm miscounting, yeah, that is the end of it. So JoRt takes that there. But that was a pretty good series. Yeah, it's a little bit disappointing just to see it end so anticlimactically there, but JoRt does take it there. Just sort of played that out a bit better here on the map. But yeah, I think if we just sort of kite the trooper recruits, get the upgrade, and come back, and you can always get the turret just in case it all goes horribly, horribly wrong. You could have done a bit of like walling to sort of wall his opponent out a little bit as well, just to make it more difficult to get those troops into that position and spawn camp the troop centers. But anyway, GG well played to both players, and if you like that and you want to see more content like that, give a like to the channel. You can subscribe to the channel if you want. If you want to support the channel in another way, maybe buy me a coffee. You find the donate link down below for PayPal. If you want to get involved with these games in the future, or just join the GBG community, see when people are on, because normally we keep in touch with one another on the Discord, so you find the Discord community link down below in the description. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care. Bye bye.